Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation.
Hello and welcome back to the W.A.I.T channel, What Am I Thinking? Today we're going to discuss the Florida Board of Education's recent approval for Black history education. Recently, we know that this is something that has been going on in this state for some years now, but now they have formalized their new approved academic standards for the instructions on African American history. So before we started the taping, I know Tracy and I, we were kind of having a side conversation with that, and we both agree that history is very important. And for a long time now within education, they have worked to provide information that is helpful and accurate. But when it comes to Black history, I know for myself, young, when I was in school, I never really got the full extent of the history for Americans that were Black, especially those that were brought here to the country not as indentured slaves but slaves. I never really got the full story behind all of that, and the full story of what followed after the emancipation or the end of the Civil War. So I'll let you speak on this, your point and your view with that, Tracy.
Well, my thing is that it just makes me sad that we are just going backwards. Florida in particular, in 1994, they enacted a statute that required schools to teach African American history because of them leaving out and trying to cover up things like the Rosewood Massacre. And it's as if that didn't happen, because now not only are you not going to talk about the different massacres and uprisings, but now you're going to put a slant on slavery as if it was a positive thing for those who were enslaved. And that's just a non-starter for me, because unless you were at the end of that whip, where are you to say that there was some positive things for those who were enslaved, that it was a good thing? It's just ridiculous.
I'm looking at an article here from BET, and the headline is New Florida Educational Standard says Black people got personal benefit from slavery. And I am just astonished that this is beyond whitewashing history. This is what I would call lies. Now, we know that this country has a long history of mistreatment for a number of different ethnicities. You know, I just think of Asians and the horrible way that they were treated when they came in this country, how they limited their jobs and opportunities, how they created quotas that made it extremely difficult for them to even come to the country, let alone become American citizens. So it's like we know that there are dark moments that are in this country's history, but we do not learn from our mistakes if we don't talk about and teach our children the mistakes that the forefathers made. Pretending that something happened, leaving large gaps in the historical context of what happened, you're not only doing a disservice to the students, but you're doing a disservice to our country, because these are the people that one day will lead our countries, and we don't want leaders that are not learning from the mistakes of the past.
Well, we know that Black history has not been taught in the schools to a level that was, it wasn't a topic that they really put a lot of focus on in the first place. I think most people probably, when they got to the college level, probably learned more about African American history than in middle school and high school, and probably very little in elementary school. And they want to go backwards, even make it even more. They want to allow it to be sanitized even more. It's like, we have to learn from the past. We have to. And, are individuals so sensitive, and that there is no room for them to feel uncomfortable? Feeling uncomfortable, taking accountability, that's a part of maturing and adulting in life. It's okay to acknowledge mistakes of the past. That's part of this country's problem, is we haven't fully embraced the mistakes of the past that this country was founded of. We've done some little tipping to the Native Americans in trying to right those wrongs. We have, we're trying to say that everything is a level playing field for African Americans because we had one biracial president in this country, and now we have a biracial vice president. So we want to say everything is all fair, but we know it's not. You don't you're not able to regroup and to move forward and have a level playing field when you are starting in such a deep hole. And nobody wants to truly acknowledge how deep that hole has been for people of color in this country. And something like this, as I said, African American history being taught in the schools was not great, period. But I imagine it was probably even worse in the South. And so to have this happening in Florida should not be shocking or surprising. But what it is most of all is it's sad. It's sad that this has to be the debate that we're having in 2023.
I'm reading this article even further, and I can see the root of behind how it occurred. I think it's very dangerous when we take a word and we make that word bigger than what it really needs to be. And right now, I know that there is a percentage or a segment of our population using the term woke. And even in this new act that the governor of Florida brought to his state, he took the acronym and he kind of made his own phrase, meaning Stop the Woke Act means wrongs to our kids and employees. And they feel that for your K through 12 classrooms, they're trying to prohibit or stop white students from feeling guilty over racial oppression, and they do not want to teach about white privilege. So again, you are the purpose behind it is so severely slanted. Again, what you are asserting is that to the minority, your voice doesn't matter. That's basically what you're saying. Your voice doesn't matter. Your history doesn't matter. The wrongs that your ancestors had to live through and survived through, it doesn't matter. And then what makes it worse is it was a dystopia, but they're going to paint that dystopia in a positive light.
Right. They're trying to make it a utopia.
Yeah. So
and totally not, you know.
I really, it's like, as this is occurring, because it is happening, and it's not just happening in Florida, it is happening in red states across our nation. I almost feel like this is a bad script. Okay, this is a bad script, and it couldn't possibly go anywhere, because no one would ever believe that something like this would happen. Yet it is.
Yet it is.
That's
in it. It's a sad state that we're in, and but that's why I go back to talking about every vote counts. Running for the school board and who's getting on that school board matters. It matters.
I think that
stay home and because it's not a general election with the president on it, you got to show up and pay attention to who you're putting in office at every level.
You know, the days of sitting back and saying that you believe and you trust your elected officials, those days are gone. And I look at the current state of the country, and I know that moving forward, that civil disobedience, and civil disobedience doesn't have to mean violence, but right. You have to let your voice be heard, and let the people in power know you work for us and we do not approve of what you're doing. When the voices get louder and louder, that is where change comes. So sitting back and shaking your head, sitting in your home and just being upset about something, those days have passed. There has to be some type of action, whether it is in a letter, definitely in voting. We, as Tracy said, you have to vote in every election, whether it's on the small scale or the large, it counts. You have to attend whatever meetings, be an active participant in your with your school and your children. Notify your local as well as state and federal legislators about your discontent. We have to let our voices be heard, because I believe this is just the tip of an awful, awful iceberg. They have been testing the waters for decades, and we have only begun to see this shift in tide. But it's not over. The fat lady has not sung. So we see your hand, we see your cards. So now it's time to use your voice and to let it be known you are not in agreement with what you are seeing. History is history. It's painful sometimes to see, but how do we learn? We learn from the past.
You can't check out just because maybe you don't have school-age children anymore, whether it's you are too young to have kids or whether your kids are adults now. You can't check out of and check the box of it doesn't affect me. It affects the whole society. Our educational system, as broke as it is, that is where the bulk of the shaping and forming of these young minds happens. It's in the school. And you've got to care what's going on in that setting. You know, Lori said civil disobedience. We can protest without rioting. We can protest and have our voices heard. We can do letter writing campaigns. We can do other things to be able to have this ground roots effort to let them know this is not okay.
So as this topic continues, and I'm certain that it will, please in the comment section, let us know what you are thinking. Let us know ways in which you plan to participate as a citizen in this country to let your voice be heard. We really want to know what you are thinking. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely ours and should be taken as such. Our thoughts are intended purely for entertainment purposes. Please do not take anything we say as fact or advice. Thank you for listening.